Everybody, and welcome to another live stream. It's great to see so many people here already, loads of questions building up and so on. So let's kind of get straight in with a couple of housekeeping bits and bobs, and then we'll get straight into the many questions. So I'm Gary Bembridge. Channel, of course, is Tips for Travelers. This is a live stream, so if you're watching this afterwards, everything that we talk about here is driven by the people who are here asking questions. So depending on whether you're watching on your desktop or your mobile phone or whatever, the questions will come up wherever. If you're watching this afterwards, by the way, I normally put the questions up, they'll show up there, so you can also skip through and see what they are. So I'm just back from Virgin Voyages, as you probably know, back yesterday. And so I'm really going to focus as much as, depending on the questions, of course, on Virgin Voyages and any questions you've got. I will be covering Virgin Voyages in a couple of other videos that will come out over the next couple of weeks. So I'll focus very much on the questions. And then why I think about it now in terms of housekeeping, there will not be a live stream next week, next Saturday or Sunday, because I'll actually be on another cruise. I'm joining Celebrity for a week-long cruise. So we will skip a week and we'll be back with Celebrity. So I think those are all the housekeeping bits and bobs. So let's get straight back in. So as I mentioned, one quick other housekeeping thing. As I mentioned, I'm just back. Can you see that there? Probably a reflection. They're back from Virgin Voyages. Whoops. I'm going to shut that up there. Whereas a fortnight, I was invited by Virgin on the cruise, just to be clear on that. And probably the good news is, though, that I actually had a really good time. So it's probably going to be a little bit easier. So let's get stuck in. As I said, there's loads of other questions coming up. Lots of regulars here: Heather, Hetty, Andy, Kirsty, Bill, etc. here. So great to see you here again. I'll focus initially on some of the Virgin questions, as I mentioned, and then we'll get on to some of the broader ones. So let's see, David from Cruise Show. Also, he has a video actually just up yesterday of the Virgin Scarlet Lady. He was on the cruise before me. So let's get going. Hypnotherapy for you. Hi, Gary. We really dislike the look of the Virgin ship from the video and images we've seen as fans of Cunard, Viking, and Celebrity. What are your thoughts about the look and mood of the Virgin ship? So, you know, one of the things I would say, hypnotherapy for you and everybody really, is Virgin, without a shadow of a doubt, is a bit like Marmite is in the UK. It really divides people very, very, very much. And the great thing about being on this cruise is I got to talk to lots of people, and quite a few people who watch the channel, some of which may hopefully join us today. So it was also good to hear people's perspectives. So I think definitely, without a shadow of a doubt, Virgin is not for everybody. It does definitely divide opinions. I mean, they have gone very clearly for a look of a ship which looks very different, you know, the grayness, etc. And I think particularly it will look much better, in my particular opinion, when it's actually sailing in bright, sunny climates, because it will really kind of stand out. So certainly from the outside, it is very divisive. It's probably not one of the most beautiful ships, but it's very distinctive, which I think they're going for. However, once you're inside the ship, it's a very different thing, in my opinion. And I'll talk about the public areas, and then I'll talk about the cabins, because I think there's some very big differences when you get into the cabin area. So once you're inside, I actually really like the look and feel inside. And one of the things that I liked what Virgin Voyages does is they have kind of created what I call, maybe they call, I don't know, but I call it kind of big ship, small venues. So actually when you're on the ship, there are no big venues. So before this particular cruise, I was on a Princess cruise, you know, so Princess have the big atrium, you know, probably to a lesser degree, Cunard do, as you're mentioning there, but a lot of the other ships, they have that big atrium and they have big venues. You know, you've got big pool decks, you know, big theaters, big kind of bar areas. What Virgin have done is something very, very different, whereas they've gone for small venues. So there's lots and lots and lots of small venues, which don't actually hold that many people. So if you go along deck 6 or deck 7, where most of the venues are, you're going from one little venue to another little venue. And actually, in reality, the decor of those venues is not really that wacky or out there. They are quite themed. So you'll have like, a dock, I can't remember what it's called, dock club area, or you'll have SIP, which is a champagne bar, or you'll have those kind of venues, and they are small and they're very kind of themed. Now, the same is also true actually once you're out the ship. So once you get out onto, there's a very big promenade deck, which is a little bit why I was talking about why it's built for warm weather. Again, with lots of little nooks and crannies. Up on deck 15, deck 16, again, you've got the athletic club, a little space at the back there, but you've got lots of little pockets of stuff. But actually the decor is not that wacky and wild. So I think a lot of people got particularly hung up or focused a lot on the outside of the ship, which is very divisive. Inside, if you're talking about other cruise lines, particularly some of the more modern cruise lines, some of the more recent ships, the decor's not particularly wacky. I think when it comes to the cabins, which a lot of people have seen, that again is a more divisive. Now, I was actually staying in one of the mega Rockstar suites, so very nice. I was put in a suite. It's called a Fab suite. It's the second level suite behind the massive suites. I got to see the massive suite, and I've actually, if you look at Instagram stories, which I'll put on here, I've actually got a tour of the massive suite, and I have a video which I will put up over the next couple of weeks of what the Rockstar Fab suite was. Now, personally, those I think are going to not appeal to everybody because they are quite, they've gone for kind of a wow factor. They've gone for quite more abrupt, more harsher colors, but it's definitely designed to be like a wow factor. Now, looking at the other cabins, once you get, down the suite level, so that's very, very specific for a type. So I suspect that's what a lot of people have seen. However, if you go and look at, say, things like the Simply Suite, for example, which some friends of mine, Richard and Helen, who also have a YouTube channel, so I'm sure they'll do a tour of that. They're still on the ship, actually. Visit us, with Richard and Helen. They were staying in an entry-level suite, which is a Simply Suite, which I really liked. So it's a good size suite, not massive, really beautiful bathroom, sort of like a marble effect bathroom. Excuse me, good size balcony, and that is, not wacky and way out there. I mean, it's still trendy, but not as way out, if you like, as the Rockstar suites are designed to be like big wow factor kind of things. Then if you get into the sea terrace or I guess what we'd call a cabin, balcony cabin, again, those are not wild and wacky. So they've actually, one of the things that was interesting is there was lots of news and stories about the fact that in the sea terrace, the regular cabins, that you could have them as a sofa bed or an L-shaped bed. Actually, because of the feedback that Virgin got when they did some of their very early stuff, what they've done is they've changed their approach though. So when you go into your cabin now, it's made up as a double bed or queen size bed or whatever that is. So two twins together, I guess it's more like a queen size, king size bed. So it's actually made up now in a bed. It's not made up in the L-shaped thing. They've put new toppers on the bed. And so when you go in, it looks much more like a regular cabin. Now you can have it reset into that if you want, but pretty much everybody, I think everybody I spoke to, so it doesn't mean everyone on the ship, they had actually left it as a bed and had spoken about how comfortable it was. I must say the beds I found very comfortable because with the topper and stuff on, and certainly everybody I spoke to, whether they liked Virgin or didn't like the ship, did like the bed. So the cabins are much more, I mean, they're still a little bit trendy, a little bit modern, but they're not as in your face. The one thing I would say that probably divided people in the sea terrace, the balcony cabin, which is what most people are going to cruise in, is the bathrooms. So a lot of people said they liked the size of the shower, but they felt the actual area was smaller. And again, that the sort of the basin area was a little bit smaller. So like on most cruise ships, the bathrooms aren't massive because they give more room to space. So that was probably the divisive thing. So I don't know if I've answered all your questions. So I think one of the things I would absolutely say is, and I guess Virgin are probably intending to do this, is they're not for everybody. They're not taking the middle ground. They're not they're trying to appeal, I guess, to, and I'll come back to Hilal's question, who I think they appeal to, but they've taken a very design-led thing. I personally didn't find it that out of whack. But if you go to more contemporary hotels, so I'm thinking like, if you go to like a W Hotel, for example, or you're going to sort of more hip, trendy, almost like Miami Beach kind of hotels. That's the sort of decor that you can expect. But I think absolutely, I was talking to people, if you love Cunard, if you love Princess, if you love Holland America, you love that more classic cruise ship design, you're probably going to find Virgin a little bit, whoa, this is a little bit different, because it's a very, very different, very different concept. So Sarah's here, welcome back. This is Sarah, as everyone knows, is my travel agent. So let's see, Heather. Who would you say Virgin's target market is? I find the whole ship very off-putting and doesn't appeal to my 24-year-old son at all, so I'm confused. So Heather, I probably started to touch on that. I think I would say that there are a couple of people that I think Virgin is appealing to. I think it's appealing to a group of people who are probably, because I don't think it's age related. Let me touch about that. So a lot of people have spoken about this is a ship for young people. Maybe it is, but in practice, it's not. I mean, certainly the cruise I was on, I would say, and I know it's a slightly unusual cruise because it's in the UK and everyone has to be double vaccinated and et cetera, et cetera. I would say the average age was in their 50s to 60s. There was, but there was a very wide spread of age groups. So there were people, I would say, easily in their 80s, 70s. Not many, but there were. There was a fair sized number of people, I would say, sort of in their 30s or so. Quite a lot of gay couples were there. But the bulk of people were sort of late 40s into their 50s. Now, of course, that is partly because of the nature of these sailings at the moment, I would guess. But I would say it's people who are very much looking for or people who would choose when they go to stay at a hotel, they wouldn't go and stay at a Marriott, a Sheraton, those kind of hotel groups. They would look for something a little bit more kind of funky, trendy, because they want something a little bit more out there, if you like. I would say it's people who are very much into food. One of the biggest surprises for me was the food, because as you know, they have a very different concept. They don't have the main dining room at all. So again, if you like classic cruising, you're going to find that not to your liking. So I did speak to quite a few people. You know, they missed having the big main dining room. They missed the more set, having their own table, having the same waiting staff. So that's definitely not going to appeal to you if you like that. But I did find the food amazing. So the basic concept is it's basically like specialty dining every night. So all of the restaurants are included. There's only one thing you actually pay for food-wise, by the way, which is afternoon tea, which costs $19 without champagne and $39 with champagne. As you all know, I love afternoon tea. Sad ever, it was very nice afternoon tea. But that was the only thing that was slightly kind of out of sync, if you like, because every other dining option is included. So basically, it's all specialty dining. And so again, people who like to have that dining experience, if, you know, the people I did speak to that were less keen on the dining, which were not a lot of people, but there was people who admitted that they like really plain food. They like to just have kind of meat and veg. They don't like Mexican. They don't, because the restaurants are all kind of themes. You've got, you know, kind of a seafood steakhouse. You have a Mexican. You have Italian. You have Korean, etc., etc. And even in the galley, which is the buffet equivalent, like the food hall equivalent, again, you're going to have things like noodles and all that sort of stuff. So people who like really plain food said they kind of missed that main dining experience. So I think food, if you're into food, you can have very great dining experiences. You're not paying extra. If you're looking for entertainment that's a little bit different. So as you know, one of my obsessions is the kind of shows that a lot of cruise ships have, which are those kind of review shows. Virgin are doing it very different. So in the main theatre, which is called the Red Room, they are able to change the format of it. They have dual reality, which is like a Cirque du Soleil kind of show. When I was on in the preview cruise just before the pandemic, they had, I think it's called the Not Called Dance thing. So they have very different type of entertainment. They have kind of a sex relationship therapist show, which is very divisive again. When they do things like quizzes, they will have kind of salty quizzes, which are a little bit more risque. For example, they'll do a thing where you paint your own seahorses and seahorse racing with little, forfeits and things that you do. So the entertainment is slightly different. So you're looking for that. But also, probably more importantly, which is probably second after food, is if you are very into wellness and fitness. So if you look at the daily program, for example, I counted every day 13 fitness classes, which include yoga, HIIT classes, spin classes, a couple of times a day. They were normally booked, sold out. So then you have 4 or 5 seminars every day that could be around posture, nutrition, other wellness topics, massage, acupuncture, but they're all kind of wellness related. And then they had an amazing running track. I'm not a runner, but up on sort of above deck 16, it was a very specific 250-meter track, so you don't have a thing where you're dodging around, people lying on some deck. So big into fitness. If you're looking for more, like people that I met that were having a less good time, in fact, a lot of people on the channel, is they felt there wasn't enough entertainment for them. And what was interesting is the reason for that, I think, in a way, in my personal view, is I think Virgin still have some work to do on communicating what's going on. So actually the app, which is fine, was a little bit glitchy because it's new, but it was kind of hard to work out what was going on, in my opinion, because you're kind of scrolling through. What they did eventually, and I'll have that in the videos, is up on the screens, they eventually put what was effectively like an old-fashioned cruise program, which had times and listing of activities. I think a lot of people missed out the activities. Because I wanted to video them, I spent much more time digesting it. So I think it's people who are looking for a very different cruise experience. They don't want a lot of the traditional cruising things. They don't want the main dining room. They want very different entertainment. They maybe want to party a little bit late into the night, because things like there was lots of stuff going on in the Manor, which is a nightclub. There was lots of pool parties out on the pool every night, which had mixed attendance because the weather we had was mixed. But if you want to party a little bit later, it was interesting. I had thought the ship would be a big party ship, but it wasn't. There is partying if you want to do it, but it's not in your face. It's not all around. The other thing I would say, it's also for people who don't want dress codes. There is no dress code. So if you want to go to dinner in your shorts, you can. It's fine. I'm sure they'll probably turn you away if you're in your swimsuits. So it's that kind of much more, kind of very different kind of experience. So I've kind of gone along. So let me just have a quick squiz and see if there are any other things about Virgin, because I see there's quite a few other questions around other bits. So Bologna Muck has left a super chat thing, which is really, 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 really fantastic. Thank you very much for that. So those are some of the things on Virgin. I'll keep seeing if there's any other questions on Virgin and come back to those. Onto driving with Katie. First time catching this live. Excited to hear about your latest cruise. So great that you're joining live, and great if you've got any questions. Let's have a look. So some scrolling back and seeing some other questions. Francis, good to see you again, Francis. Is there any visible hesitancy among book cruises due to the variant? This is the Delta variant, I guess. I understand it's like to be a mixed bag based on mixed conditions across countries and even within countries. Francis, I'm not really sure on that specifically, and maybe we can see if Sarah's seeing that. I did ask, in fact, I met one or two travel agents on the Virgin cruise, and I was asking them a little about what they're seeing. And I think what they're seeing overall trend-wise is the thing that's almost holding people back is the complexity of traveling to other countries. With, like in the UK, you have green countries, amber countries, red countries, and all the rules around you have to have PCR tests. I was following a thread, for example, on Facebook. One of the groups I follow is called We Love Viking, which is all people who travel on Viking. I joined it when I went on the Viking cruise, and there was lots of discussions there about the complexities of all the passenger locator forms going to the different countries. And then some of the cruises, Francis, you've probably seen going out of the US, some islands are requiring people to only go on cruise line excursions, some are letting them not to go, etc., etc. So I think that is one of the key things. One of the things that I would say, which I have felt very good about, is all the cruises that I've chosen to go on anyway are you have to be vaccinated and you have to have a test. So all the tests so far for the cruises I've been on, including the Virgin one I was on, is the fast antigen test you do at the port. So hopefully they are identifying people who are vaccinated who do have the variant. I know in the US that has slightly drifted away, and most of them, even if it's vaccinated, you still have the mask requirement. And depending on the cruise line, it's in varying degrees of strictness. So certainly on the other cruises, it was required. In Virgin, it followed more the UK guidance, which was recommended. So probably there was maybe 50% of people, depending on where you were, of wearing masks. And I know the US has brought that back. When I talk about celebrity going on celebrity cruise, for example, which I'm going on Saturday, you have to have a full PCR test before. So I feel, I think people are less concerned because of the vaccine kind of requirement. I think you're right, Francis. Once you head into other places, particularly in the US, where there have been fairly, without being melodramatic, there have been a fairly consistent number of positive cases on the ships, but bear in mind those are being picked up very quickly, and because of the vaccine and because of the mask, you're not having big spreads of them. It's being one person isolated, and because of contact tracing. For example, on Virgin we had a contact tracing device. I had the same on other cruise lines, but I haven't picked it up a lot. I'd be interested to know Sarah and So has seen things like that, coming along or not coming along. Does that make any sense? Coming along or not coming along? Lots of questions about Costa Cruises. There I saw. Let's have a look. John Zimnit. Is Costa as bad as many reviews say? Never Costa. John, I have only been on one Costa cruise, and Costa wasn't particularly for me. But I've only been on there once. There are some real diehard people who love Costa. I think because it's quite an Italian experience, a lot of the passengers will often be Italian. So I guess that's the thing to think of mind is that the kind of experience that you like. I think from what I remember on Costa, the thing that I didn't like about it was I was less keen on the food and I was less keen on the entertainment, but that's very personal. So I don't know. There are other bloggers who have been on Costa much more. So Morgan, who is, I can't remember the name of his channel, and certainly Dario Cremora, who has cruise experience, has been on Costa much more. They can probably answer that much better than I can. And let's have a look. Heather saying, is anyone waiting for testing to go away before booking another cruise? I just think it carries too much risk, but I feel like I'm aloneless. Heather, I suspect you probably are. I certainly like the testing thing, and I know you are concerned about the testing and the process of testing. I feel, if anything, testing is here for a while. I guess the cruise lines want to be super cautious in terms of people coming on the ship, and particularly since we've also seen now with the Delta variant, vaccinated people can have it, they can spread it. So I think the testing is going to be around for a while, but certainly I'm sort of in the camp that likes it. Andy and Kirsty are back from Iona. So Iona went on its maiden voyage. It was a week-long voyage. Quite a few people were on that, and certainly watching Andy and Christie's piece that seemed to have gone pretty well and pretty smoothly. So let's have a look. A lot of people like Bill saying the same thing in terms of the testing. Let's answer this question. Bob is asking, I'm curious, did you open the box? Let me explain the box. So what happened is on Virgin, a lot of people, when they went on the first cruise, and maybe on the Friends and Family cruise, when they went into the cabin, they found this little box in the cabin, which was basically a series of sex toys, sex aids, which a lot of people assumed was a free gift. However, what they didn't realize is it's actually you have to buy it. And again, because there's I guess because of COVID and also because of being more kind of trying to be more modern, contemporary, there isn't sort of like a list, there isn't documentation. You have to scan QR codes to get information on how to use the television or the turntable, which many, all the suites and things have turntables in, old-fashioned turntables. And in there, it also has a list for the minibar prices and also for the sex toy things. So Bob, I didn't actually open it because I didn't necessarily want the sex toys. Also, someone had kindly posted pictures of them because they had thought it was a freebie and opened it and discovered they were paying $30. So there were two items in there that, one was the sex toy box, which I didn't open, but I had seen pictures of it. And secondly, there was another sleep aids box, which I think was also $30. So I didn't open the box. But anyway, if anyone's wondering what Bob's on about the box, that's the box of sex toys. Alan Monahan, we were on the voyage. Great, good. Hope you enjoyed it. I do hope they can fix the app glitches. We had to get help from security when we wanted to enter our cabin. The wristbands and replacement cards just would not work. So absolutely, there were kind of, I guess this is the first time the ship it was the third time the ship had been out, I guess, with passengers, and certainly the second time with many passengers. So there were three probably areas I would say that I suspect we will see a lot of focus on, and certainly with people scurrying around. First of all, was the area of Wi-Fi. The Wi-Fi was not very good. However, the Wi-Fi hasn't been good on any of the UK cruises that I've been on, including other cruise lines like Princess, which talk about, which have Medallion yet, which is definitely one of the fastest Wi-Fi. So I think the problem that they've got, I actually spoke to someone on Virgin, I met someone on Virgin. The problem you've got is you've got all these ships now sailing in the UK with whatever satellite capacity which is normally 5 when are sailing. But of course, the broadband width is not there. So the Wi-Fi was not great. I guess the key test will be once the ship leaves, heads off to New York in a couple of weeks' time, and then heads down to its home port in Miami. So certainly I think that's one thing they need to really make sure that that's up and running, because of course, free Wi-Fi is one of their big, or included Wi-Fi is one of their big selling points. And certainly I think as Alan was saying, is, the use of the app is really, really important, but they make a lot of point about encouraging you to post on Instagram, etc., and on social media, and they make a big thing about the app. The second thing is the app was pretty glitchy. I didn't have too many problems with the app, but I did have to uninstall and install it a couple of times. No, a couple of times, twice I did it. That is a couple of times. So there were some challenges with the app. I struggled to get on the app when I first got on the ship, because the ship hadn't some of the systems had me as checked in, some didn't have me checked in. But they had a thing called, I forgot what it's called now, big red table. What was it called? Anyway, they had a big red help desk table which was manned all the time, and they kind of sorted that out. But certainly the app was a little bit glitchy, because I guess now that it's really being torture tested with everyone on board, so they need to sort that out, which I'm pretty sure they will be doing. So it'll be interesting to see on this cruise now and the next cruise how that improves. And then also, and Alan, I'm not sure if you, I haven't seen with my glasses, but talking to some people you have a wristband, which I should have actually had out here, which you wear all the time, and that's basically you use it to open your door. When you buy anything, they scan that, and it's also what you scan to get on and off the ship. Now, I did talk to one or two people where they'd had some problems where it hadn't really worked with their door. So that eventually had a traditional key card thing, and that hadn't worked that well. But I certainly had no problems with the wristband, with the scanning process, the buying process. The one thing that's really important, actually, if you are on Virgin Voyages, with the thing is, because everything is sort of now digitalized, it's really important that you understand what the prices of things are. Because if you go and say buy a coffee at Grounds, there's Grounds 2 upstairs and Grounds, the coffee shop. There's not prices around. You can get prices off the QR codes. In some of the bars, the idea is you look at QR codes for menus. If you ask for a menu, they'll bring a menu. No problem at all. But just that's one of the things. You're often just bleeping around and scanning. So just make sure what you know what you're paying for, I guess. So I think you're right. That's an area where definitely they will be focusing on, I guess, now that they've got people in and out. So the wristband and that, but I think that's key. One of the things which I think they also will, I suspect, do is, I only realized when I got on the ship that I thought I couldn't book because you book your dining venue, so you book your dining venue and your time on the app, and that's really, really important to do. And it's best to do it before you get on the ship. So you can change it once you're on the ship, but sort of plan out roughly which restaurants you want to go, which night, and book would be my tip. But I had thought, well, I can't really book the restaurants, and I realized you had to go into the app, into, I think it was the about, into the ship, and then into the eateries. So I think some of that usability thing, I think they need to improve, and I'm sure that will that will start to happen. Let's have a look. That was okay, Nancy. Hi, Gary. Enjoy your video so much. Great to hear. We booked on Holland America, Southern Caribbean on the New Rotterdam on January the 16th. Might we see here? Nancy, I will be doing the Southern Caribbean, but I'm not on the Rotterdam. I'm trying to remember what ship I'm on, because I originally actually had a Virgin cruise booked, which I guess was on Scarlet Lady in January, and I booked, and then that was when they did all the chops and changes that had to happen. That was cancelled, so I replaced that actually with a Holland America trip, which is going down Southern Caribbean 10 night, but I'm pretty sure it's not on the Rotterdam. But I need to double check that. In fact, I'm trying to see. I will double check that before the end. So I am definitely doing that. I will check and see if I'm on that. If it's a 10-nighter and it's, I wonder if Sarah's on. Sarah's still on here. If Sarah's on here, she can answer that, because I should probably know that answer. Sarah, if I'm on that, can you let me know if I'm on that Rotterdam cruise? Making Sarah work when she comes to listen. But anyway, I'm definitely on that. I'm on the Southern Caribbean around about that time. But I feel like it's a little bit earlier than that. But I'm definitely around that time. So if you are if you leave out of Fort Lauderdale around that time and we're not on the same trip, maybe we can make a plan to say hello, because I think I'm there in a day or two. Heather saying, Grateful Food is also big into fitness. That's two very different groups of people. That's good. That's actually a good point. I hadn't really thought of that. I think it's the food, I mean, you can eat really badly, but you can also eat really well. So it's interesting, because one of the things that I find, to that point, Heather, is I actually find it easier personally to eat well on a cruise than when I go on a land-based holiday, because within the menus you're going to have those options. But you're right, I hadn't thought about that before. You're right. You're sort of like, maybe it's a good way of balancing it out. Which is what I do a little bit, to be honest, is, you kind of stuff myself and think, I'm not really going to have that dessert, but I'll do the dessert because I'm going to take a picture of it, or I'm going to video it. But then the next day I'll go and do my classes. But you're right, it's interesting, the food and thing. I hadn't really thought about that before. But Gary P asking, Virgin, what cruise line offers the best onboard fitness activities? Virgin. Gary, I would say, and I spoke to a few other people on this, in fact, like Richard and Helena. Richard's very into his fitness. I would say, of any ship that I've been on, of any cruise line I've been on, I would say Virgin has the best onboard fitness activities so far. I mean, some of the big mega ships obviously have big, vast things. There's one area that I think Virgin didn't have, which I hope they will tie up with, but I'll come to that in a second. So basically, let's talk about what facilities they do have. So what they have is on deck 15, which is the deck I was on actually, they have what's known as the B complex. I don't know what B stands for, but anyway. But what was there is they had two separate gyms on either side of one of the swimming pools, one of the small round swimming pools. And the one side was, I think it was called Burn and something like that, which was basically cardio. And they had in there, your rowing machines, your running machines, your bikes. They had the spin class room studio there. Then on the other side of the ship, they had, which I guess would have been on the starboard side. I think I'm just thinking now. We're saying, yeah. So port side was the cardio side with huge amounts of equipment. Then on the other side was the fitness, the weights, strength training side. Then up on deck 16, they had the training club. The training club was where they would do things like the HIIT classes, the circuit classes, that kind of stuff. So that was quite a big, long venue. Then outside that, they had, again, which would be on the starboard side, they had what they called the athletic club, which was an outside workout area. So a bit like Venice Beach. So in fact, I believe it was sort of inspired by Venice Beach. I don't know if that's true or not. And then they had all the outside stuff. And then you had the running, the running track. And then of course you had all the classes. So definitely I would say, just in terms of, and also importantly, you don't pay for any of the classes. So all the classes are included. So if you're into spinning, for example, you could do 3 or 4 spinning classes a day if you were that addicted. But you didn't pay for those. Whereas when I've been on cruises before, Mark, my partner, is big into spinning, although I'm into it now as well, but would buy a package of stuff. So definitely I would say, certainly of the ships I've been on so far, I would say they absolutely were the best. Tom and Paul, we were on the same voyage and spotted you around. You should have said hello. Hello now. I would say that people generally dressed in smart casual for dinner once they saw the armies of each dining room. I think Tom, Paul, you're absolutely right. I'm trying to see the picture if I recognized you around. I think Tom and Paul are right. I would say people kind of did dress up in the evening, partly because I think people were going on a night out. So people would go, they would get kind of dressed up because they'd go to a nice restaurant. Then they would head off, they're going off to the manor to watch the cabaret or the dancing, or they were going to one of the parties upstairs or the show. So, people, I think it's a fair comment. You don't have to dress smartly, but people probably did dress in smart casual. Tom, Paul, if you're ever on the, do say hello to me. It's always good to meet people. It was actually great. Quite a few people came up to me. And it was great to get a sense of where people were. The most interesting ones were when it was a couple and they were divided, where like husband or wife or whatever absolutely loved it, and the other one was like, I'm not so sure, and them wrestling with what they were going to do because one wanted to book and one didn't want to book. One thing I would say, which was very interesting, was one of the busiest places on the ship was actually the future cruise sales. It was really, really busy. A lot of people rebooking, and there were some great deals on board. They were doing like a $300 onboard credit on top of whatever deals were there. So they were really, really, really popular. So That was very interesting. Mike asking, Mike Barker, cigar smokers, have you noticed any cruise line reserving outdoor space for cigar smoking? So I haven't seen anyone doing outside space, and some are actually a little bit funny about cigar smoking outside space. In terms of cigar smoking, there's a couple of lines which offer actually inside cigar smoking as well, Mike. So you've got on Cunard, you have, I think it's called Churchill's, where you can, which is a cigar smoking with a special ventilation system. You've got on Princess, you've got, they have a room, which I've gotten, is that Churchill's? Maybe I'm getting confused between the two Churchills. And Oceania, on some of their ships, they have a little enclosed smoking area. So there are a few like that. And also on Hapag-Lloyd as well, they actually have on Europa, sitting on Europa 2, they have like a cigar lounge kind of area where they store cigars and stuff as well. But in terms of outdoor space, certainly when I was recently on P&O, there were people smoking cigars outside. And now on Britannia, they have this little, because they don't have a full promenade deck, they have a little sort of area. And I noticed quite a few cigar smokers would go, that smoking area always became maybe informally. But if anyone else has come across anything, then, drop it in, that'd be great. Sarah's answered the question that I asked earlier. Most cruisers seem happy to travel as they know how good the protocols are. It's non-cruisers still registered and booking for next year. That's a good observation, is people who not cruisers more concerned. Now, I did see a question which I'm going to try and jump to about Wi-Fi, which David was asking around what was the best. Here, a big red desk is the charter. Thank you. I knew it was something, some name. One of the things which Virgin do, which I know why they're doing, but it's sort of, they've gone out of their way to use different terminology, which is interesting. It's part of the brand, it's part of what they do, but they do go to great lengths. So passengers are sailors, travel agents are first mates, cabins, traditional balcony cabins are called sea terraces. They use the word ahoy a lot. Onboard credit is called loot, and everything's got that name, like the chart room instead of basically the guest services or whatever, sailor services. So there's a lot of that going on. But so I'm trying to see. I did get the question, so I will try and I'll bring it up. Here we go. Of all the UK cruises you've been on, which has offered the fastest Wi-Fi? For us, it was Viking. We uploaded vlog in 4K. David, I think they've all been pretty bad. I think on Viking was probably the best, because I did notice you did upload there. I did notice that Ben and David uploaded a ship tour video, which is quite a long video on Iona. But then again, I could see, and maybe Kirsty and Co could say how they found Wi-Fi. But one of the things I've noticed on all of these was these UK trips is at the beginning, I guess when people are really sort of more down, just coming out of Southampton or Portsmouth, you'll see lots of social media posting, and then it goes completely quiet because people can't upload anything. And then maybe when they head back more towards that, the satellite's stronger, but you have this dead time. So I would say probably Viking. I think they've all been pretty bad. I was very surprised because I didn't have the same experience that you managed to upload a 4K vlog. I was very impressed that you'd managed to do it. Maybe you were sucking up all the broadband, David. I found them all pretty poor. And even as I think the strongest possibly was Viking, but they've all been the same. One of the things that I've used as a test, which is a complete aside, but a little bit coming back to the fitness thing, is I'm obsessed. I'm a Peloton person. I'm obsessed with Peloton. Anyone who has Peloton knows how obsessive that becomes. Because of you have your scores and your rankings and all sorts of things, and you have your so many weeks and consecutive weeks and things. Anyway, so one of the things that I was hoping Virgin would have is Peloton bikes on board. They don't have a Peloton bike. But what I do on all these cruises is you can download on your phone the classes, and then you can basically do them on a normal bike, and you can use low impact classes. Anyway, but you need to have a fairly good Wi-Fi connection to be able to run classes. So even though they're preloaded, they do still rely on Wi-Fi, I guess, because it also links into the Peloton. Now, I was able to get that to work on all of the cruises to some degree, but not every single day. And that was almost a test, because that was almost a test of just how good it was. And they all kind of sort of failed on that one. But again, I think it's more around the the broadband thing. Lots of discussions still on the testing. One of the things which is interesting, I was thinking, Heather, which is maybe different in the US too, in the UK, was one of the things that the UK government has done here is they are encouraging everybody to test multiple times a week. And so you get free antigen test, the fast test, which is basically the test that the cruise lines are using. So what Heather was talking about is that stress factor of going to the cruise and discovering that even though asymptomatic you fail the test. I think that's the concern. But certainly what I've been doing is every couple of days I do one of those free antigen tests, and before I head off for the port I always do one. So like before I headed down for the Viking, the P&O, the Princess, the Virgin one, I did the test. So a lot of that stress was gone. So that's the way I've sort of done it. And I think what other people are saying is, and I know Bob and Holly did this, is stay away from social contacts within 3 weeks of a cruise, is what a lot of people are doing, and particularly with the Delta variant. And I must admit, I'm probably doing that a little bit as well, is tending to avoid those big things, although I actually got a theatre thing just before my celebrity cruise, which I hadn't really thought about. It got me stressed about that. So let's go back and see what if I've missed any other things. So let's have a look. There was a question here around the other bits and pieces. Good to know we're on Regal next week. We're booked on, Linda saying, we are booked on the Saga cruise to the Adriatic in October, which is a very nice cruise. Do you think it will be allowed to go to Venice? So Linda, the situation now is cruise ships they can go into a port in Venice, but it's not the port in Venice. And you also will not sail in that arrival where you sail up the canal, the Grand Canal past St. Mark's Square, etc. So that you will not do. So what some cruise lines have done is they've taken the more extreme thing and they've moved, they don't call it to Venice at all. So they call it into another port, which is about an hour bus ride away. And I've got the name of it. But so some like Royal Caribbean and stuff have actually, they call on, they don't even go to the port of Venice. So you used to go into kind of a sort of a working port. The one you go to now is even more of a working port. So from what I've seen is, Saga's plan is still go more into Venice, but you will miss out on that sail in, sail out thing, which was an amazing experience seeing it. But you did sort of think, wow, can this be good for Venice? So, luckily I've done it 2 or 3 times. But but certainly what I've seen on that is, I've seen that that's what I've still seen. So the Princess Medallion net is incredibly fast. I think that's true. What we have seen, I have been, when I've been on Princess cruises, not sailing on these UK cruises, it's very, very fast. So I think Princess cruise is very fast. Also the normally the upgraded Royal Caribbean brand, so particularly on the big Royal Caribbean ships and Celebrity, in my experience, has normally had very, very, very fast Wi-Fi. I'll be interested to know when I'm a Celebrity whether it's the same issue, the same issue that all these UK ones have had. Robert Weber saying, many thanks for the Panama videos. Greatly enjoy and hope to travel the same route next April. Hopefully, please keep the Panama topics coming. Love your show. Well, that's fantastic. So Robert, thanks for watching that Panama video. The Panama video, which I put out the other week, I actually made over a year ago before I released it. I made it when I came back from one of the Panama things, and I kind of wasn't sure about putting it out until people were wanting to go, and particularly with even the situations, because some of those Panama Canal cruises were still looking questionable because of some of them are linked to going down to South America and stuff. But anyway, so great to hear that you enjoyed it. It's been a very popular video, which is great to know. And I definitely will keep the Panama topics coming, because I'm actually in February doing another Panama Canal cruise, and this time I'm doing on Oceania. I think it's Serena, if I remember correctly. And it starts in Panama. Well, the reason I'm very excited about it is because I'm obsessed with the Panama Canal. But secondly is I have only ever been in the Panama Canal heading, from Colon side through to Panama City side, or done the partial transit and then turned around, gone back, or done the excursion. Whereas this time I'm starting in Panama City and I'm doing it the other way around. So actually going through all those, the locks at the beginning, the Pedro Miguel, locks and then ending, so it's completely the other way around. So that's going to be I'm very excited about that. So you absolutely will have more Panama stuff coming, and also having seen that how popular it was. So I'll try and find some new angles. So certainly if you have any angles that you want me to cover, then let me know, because I'll obviously be trying to think about things I'm going to be covering. Peter asking, do any cruises ban smoking altogether? Smoking is the one single thing that adversely affects our cruise experience. Smoking is, without a shadow of a doubt, one of the biggest and divisive areas. There is no cruise line at this point in time that totally bans smoking. There have been discussions that are, now I need to look it up, so don't quote me. I think there was an experiment at one time, didn't really work. So you're right. So no cruise line has smoking. I've found and I guess it depends a little bit on where it is and whatever it is, the smokers are being more and more marginalized, if you like. And I know a lot of smokers get frustrated by that, where they can go and smoke is becoming more and more limited, the amount of places they're doing it, but it does differ a lot by cruise lines. So some cruise lines, for example, will allow in the pool deck, the port side or starboard side for smokers, and I agree with you, that can be quite disruptive. You can't smoke on your balconies, and I actually, the cruise lines are quite strict on that. So, they can obviously, with CCTV, they can also pick up people are smoking, but I know some people who are on a cruise recently, the people next to them were smoking, they snitched on them, and that was shut down really, really quickly. So the cruise lines are pretty sensitive about smoking, but at this point in time, Peter, there is no cruise line banning it. What I do wish they would stop is a lot of cruise lines still allow smoking in the casino, or smoking. They might have one or two non-smoking nights in the casino, and I do wish they would stop that, because I do like to play the machine stuff, but I do find the smoking there quite thing. But no, there's none really talking about it as of yet. And Sarah's saying actually MSC are also good at Wi-Fi. So that's good to know. OB for Oblivion. What has the COVID testing procedures been like when boarding queues, etc.? Due to go to Sky Princess in September. So Obi, let me know when you're going on Sky Princess. I'm actually on Sky Princess in September as well. I think I'm on like the 17th of September. It's the 5-nighter. So let me know when you're on that. So the testing procedures have generally been pretty good. There have been one or two little upsets, but let's talk about the ones that have gone well. I'll talk a little about the ones that have gone less well. So in terms of the process, it depends a little bit about whether you're arriving by car and you're parking your car, or whether you're being dropped off. So let me talk about the drop off first of all. So on all these cruises, I haven't parked at. I've either gone down by train and got a taxi to the port, or in fact, Mark has actually dropped me off on one of them, or two of them. No, one of them. No, I think he's dropping off on two of them. Anyway, so that has been really quick, because a lot of people, particularly with these domestic UK cruises, are driving. Whether they're driving either from Newcastle, and it's the people on the ship version that are driven down from Newcastle to join the ship. But a lot of people are driving down. So certainly the walkthrough process has been very quick. So I think if I look at the ones I've done, so both with Princess, when I did Regal Princess, and when I did Pinot Britannia, I would say I had almost no queuing. There's maybe 4, 5 people, 6 people in front of me going through the process, checking in, and then of course you wait the 15, 20 minutes. With Princess, for example, I arrived at the port, my check-in time was 11:30. I arrived there at 11:30. I doffed off my bag, went to the testing area, and I was on the ship by 20 past 12. When I went on Britannia, it was a slightly longer process, but because even though my slot was 11, I had finished all the testing, had my results, and was checked in by 12, but they then didn't do boarding until 1 or something like that. On Viking, you get tested on the ship. Now, the Virgin did have a big issue on their first day of where basically I don't know what happened. They didn't have enough capacity or something. And it took a very long time. Some people complain about waiting 4 or 5 hours to go. Now, certainly on the cruise I was on, it was very quick. So everybody was on board. Everyone had done everything they needed to do. And we set by 6 o'clock, and we were due to sail at 7. So that went more smoothly. I've seen more mixed things with people with driving, because then you're driving and queuing. So they do the testing, in the car. So when I did my Saga cruise, for example, you have the car pickup and you drive through and you get tested. Now, that was relatively quick, but I know people who had a later slot were waiting, an hour or so queuing. I know David has done a couple of videos where he's driven to the port, and I think he's again waited an hour and a half in that process to get through the system. So it's relatively quick, but you probably, it's probably an hour or so, and definitely Virgin have sped up that whole process. So that was a bit of a thing. That's why I think, the point that I've gone, who was making the point about, the app and things like that. One of the things we saw is, Virgin being seemed pretty quick to jump on these things. And what was very interesting is Tom McAlpine, who is the CEO of Virgin Voyages, he was actually on the ship, and he's staying on the ship. I don't know much longer he's on for, but he was everywhere. So on the voyage that I was on, which is after they had all those issues on testing, they actually moved. It was a 3-day voyage. They moved the testing across the road to a bigger place. They put in more resource, and he was there, all over it. And when I got on board the ship and was having those issues I was mentioning earlier, Tom McAlpine was lurking around, that help desk, like what's going on. So I think, definitely, I think people are kind of on it. Smokers drink more and gamble more, which is what I guess the philosophy is, which is why Las Vegas still allow smoking, which is interesting to know. Aha, Keith. On Sky Princess on the 17th of December, look up for you and stand you a pint. So Keith, great. Yes, definitely look at me. I don't drink alcohol, but I do like Heineken Zero. So you can stand me up for Heineken Zero. So that'll be great. Good. So let's go back. I saw someone had left a, let's go back. It was showing up on my, see, I keep an eye both on my iPad here and there, because sometimes this is slightly delayed behind. So let's just see if the Heather asking on the gambling point on Sky Princess. So let me just scroll back on here and let's see what I missed. I want to make sure I haven't missed any questions. Otto was saying they had sex toys as an in-room purchase. Oh my, yes, they did. I think it's also part of what Virgin, they're trying to be a little bit cheeky, trying to be a little bit naughty. So it'd be interesting to know. I'd love to know how people actually buy those. Things would be really interesting. But yeah. So Paul making the point again, Morella in the UK insists on mask wearing and vaccines, but not for under 12s. So again, the lines are pretty strict. So the Princess is pretty strict, and Celebrity, which I'm going on, is pretty strict now. Celebrity still, certainly at the time of recording, they are, I can only get off this. We're calling at 3 ports in Scotland. And it's a pity really, because we're calling in Greenock for Glasgow. And I know a lot of people in Glasgow, but I can't see them because we still are only allowed off on bubble excursions, only allowed off on cruise line excursions. So that's Peter Jones saying, sorry, I'm late, Gary, been to the gym for the first time in months, and I'm walking like a buckled wheel. So Peter, it's interesting actually. You should get on Virgin, then you'd have lots and lots of time. Here's some fun trivia. Slightly true, but not true, because I'm going to tell you some other interesting trivia. The one Richard Branson business venture that doesn't carry the Virgin branding is Mates Condoms, which is interesting because I used to work on Mates Condoms. And I'll tell you why I worked on Mates Condoms. Is you're absolutely right, Peter, is when Mates Condoms first came out, it was linked to the Virgin brand. It was then they moved on from that. And actually Johnson & Johnson, who I was working for at the time in the UK, we took over Mates Condoms more from the marketing and sales side. And then it was eventually bought by somebody else. And I think it might have actually been, I can't remember who bought it, but you're right, absolutely right. It was actually linked and part of the whole the Virgin thing for a while, but they didn't have brands, because it was also launched at the time. The idea was going to be a much less expensive product, and they had that really edgy, pretty good, funky advertising. Jacob Shapiro, which cruise line do you suggest for 25 to 35-year-old cruisers? Is it Virgin or another one you recommend? So Jacob, there's a couple of that I would suggest that you look at. Virgin, absolutely take a look at Virgin, because obviously what they're trying to do is cater for a cruiser, particularly if it's a new to cruise, who are looking for things, things that they like, wellness, food, partying if you want to, very vibey, Instagrammy, social media kind of stuff. I was always joking actually when I was writing some of the stuff for the video. It's almost like the ship's been designed for people's short attention spans in a way, not in a nasty way, but because there's lots of little venues. So it's a bit like, on Instagram and stuff, we're all used to spending a few minutes and stuff. So actually you want loads and loads of venues, because you can jump from venue to venue to venue as your attention wanes. But anyway, so definitely take a look at Virgin. Virgin is a premium line, so they're not going to be the cheapest of your options, but definitely take a look at those, because what they're trying to do is to really cater for people who are new to cruising, youthful mindset. So take a look at Virgin, I would say, for sure. I mean, they do have a range of cabins, so they do have inside cabins. They do have, sea terrace, balconies and stuff. So they have a range of cabins and range of pricing. So definitely look at those. I still would also take a look at some of the big lines. So take a look at like Royal Caribbean, for example, Norwegian Cruise Line. Again, you're going to have a wide range of accommodation types, lots of different budgets. I mean, you can go on Royal Caribbean on some of the biggest ships and spend $80,000 for a week to stay on one of their big glitzy cabins, but you can also get inside cabins, ocean view cabins, etc., etc. But Royal Caribbean then will have lots and lots of attractions. So they've got, you've got the big shows, the water shows, the ice skating, which you can go and do, go-karting. Then you've got a wide range of venues. You've got, clubs, all that kind of stuff. So definitely take a look at it. And the same with Norwegian, again, which has, I can't remember, like the big ships have 20 different venues, 15 different bars or whatever. But bear in mind, when you look at those, is when you're comparing the prices, take a look at Virgin, take a look at Royal Caribbean, take a look at Norwegian, but just make sure you understand what is and isn't included, because Virgin might look much more expensive, but say your Wi-Fi is included, your juices, waters included, gratuities are included, where they aren't included in the others. All your special dining is included, but it's not in the others. So just be a little bit careful when you compare prices. But those are probably the three that I look at. And the reason maybe I'm being a little bit stereotypical here, but those are the ones that have the most going on, the most buzzy and stuff. You could also look at things like Celebrity, Oceania, Azamara, but I'm assuming, maybe wrongly, that 25 to 35 years olds are going to want to have loads of stuff to do. That's what that's why I think those lines are the ones to look at. And I would also say, then a lot of it, of course, depends on where you're thinking of going, because the advantage of those ships, if you go into ones which are not as port intensive, you then have loads of stuff to do. But those are certainly the ones that I would definitely look at. So I've got a question here, which I will find, which I do want to answer, and it's showing up. Here we are. Gotham, hopefully I don't massacre your name. Gotham Natarajan. Hopefully I've said that correctly. Thank you very much for your super chat. I'm a vegetarian and don't drink alcohol. The best premium and ultra luxury lines for me. Now, the great news, Gotham, is that pretty much all of the lines cater really, really well now for vegetarians. And the good news about not drinking alcohol is you then can avoid having a big bar bill and worrying about drinks packages. So I'm not vegetarian, but I don't drink alcohol, so I tend not to get often the drinks packages unless they're bundled. So one of the things I would say is, if you're looking at places that are particularly good at dealing with vegetarians, there's also a very good website which Sana runs, which is called the Vegan Cruiser. Now, I know she focuses on vegan a lot, but she's very good at breaking down line by line by line where you get good vegan options. But certainly I would say all of the lines cater very well for vegetarians. And although some of the lines that actually still have the more traditional main dining rooms are particularly good, because they have a central kitchen and they have a lot of demand for vegetarian. But you'll normally find everyone will have at least one vegetarian, one vegetarian starter, one vegetarian main, one vegetarian dessert. But actually, if you get on any of those ships and talk to the maitre d' and say, look, I'm vegetarian, do you either have a separate vegetarian menu, or can we talk about planning? So what they'll often do is they will give you the menu in advance, and you can look at it and say, look, yeah, I quite like that, but can we do it without whatever, beef stock or whatever? And they'll often do that. But in terms of you looking for lines, if you're looking at ultra luxury lines, if you look at Seabourn, Silver Sea, Regent 7 Sea, and Viking, I know Viking is not strictly ultra luxury, they all have good vegetarian options. Oceania is the one that really pride themselves on food, and certainly they generally have very good vegetarian options and will also be pretty flexible. But again, if you look at, so that's the more the ultra luxury side, I am a big fan of Oceania. I was like Azamara, but Oceania do make a big thing about I can't remember, they have some trademark line which is something like the best food at sea or something. So that's definitely one to take a look if you like smaller ships. When you get to the premium side, I would take a look particularly at Celebrity, again, which catered pretty well for vegetarians, but so do things like Holland America, so does Cunard, so does Princess. So those are the ones I would probably focus on. And don't worry, the alcohol thing, the thing I would say actually, which is very important, really, really, really important, is when you talk to the maitre d', is be clear if you want no alcohol at all. So for example, I don't drink alcohol, but when I was on Viking, I had said to the waiter, look, I don't drink alcohol, so don't worry. But what they did is they took that I don't have alcohol in anything. I don't mind if there's wine in a sauce or whatever. So they would do everything and take alcohol out. That's how detailed these lines are. So if you are particularly strict, when you have a discussion with the maitre d', be clear whether it's only you don't drink alcohol or whether you don't want alcohol in any of the dishes, because that will differ what they do for you. I mean, it's that amount of detail, but really, really important, because I had to eventually say, whoa, because, for example, I went to dinner one night on Viking and with someone that I knew on the cruise, and they would bring the chips, but the chips were, because they were beer battered chips, they brought beer battered chips for the person I was eating with, but they brought me other chips which weren't beer battered, and that that amount of detail I really didn't like. I didn't really need. So Heather's asking a question. Did you feel like you're on a ship on Scarlet Lady? A lot of the focus seems to be indoors, not a connection with the sea, which I enjoy. Heather, it was actually quite different to that. I actually felt a huge connection with the sea, because actually, you're right, there's lots of stuff going on indoors, but they have this massive big, the promenade deck is really, really big on either side of the ship. And one of the things I've said is I will go back on Virgin. I was having a discussion with Sarah yesterday. I will go back on Virgin, but I will only go on Virgin in a hot climate, because the ship is actually designed for the outdoors. So there's loads of little nooks and crannies. And I think you're right. All the pictures and all the focus has been on what's going on inside the ship. So people are saying, this is this big gray ship and we don't know if we like it, because it is, as you mentioned at the beginning, very polarizing. Lots of focus has been on what's indoors, the Manor, the Red Room, which can reconfigure the Manor, which is named after Richard Branson's first recording studio, all these inside venues. But actually outside, there's loads going on. They have like the athletic club with the netting. You've got the perch at the back. You've got the dock on deck 7, I think it was. You do have these amazing outside spaces. So I did feel very much connected to the sea. And in fact, that's why I did say I really want to be on a warm climate, because a lot of the parties are outside. The pool party, a lot of the activities were out, say, at the athletic club. A lot of the the quizzes and things were outside. So definitely I did feel, and you have big portholes all on deck 7, massive sort of oversized portholes looking out. So some ships, like some of the new Celebrity ships, I feel like they're you can't see the sea. Walking around Virgin, you can see outside a lot. And even, for example, in the bathrooms, which is interesting, when you're in the shower, you can see through the cabin out to the sea. And we sort of joke about it, because actually they have windows effectively in the bathroom, which is to allow light in. But you can, when you're in the shower, you can see out to sea. So it was very interesting. I think it's a really great point that you made there around, a lot of the vibe has been around what's going on, indoors. So Peter, great, thanks for that, Peter. On Princess, I declare my vegetarianism in advance. The maitre d' comes to and promises to always cater for me, even if I'm not happy with the menu. It's never an issue. The menu is excellent. So that's really good to know. So wow, time's gone really quickly. So someone else recommendation, Beth. Kathy, enjoy your Celebrity Cruise. Thank you very much. I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be a week long, which is very nice. A lot of them being 4 days. I'm on 3 ports, which I'm looking forward. So you're basically on May the 22nd, May 2022 out of Southampton. Comments about the shift table. Quite a few people are asking me that, so I need to make sure that I do that. So thanks so much for all these questions. I hope you have a fantastic week. As I mentioned, I won't be doing a live stream next week, because I'll just be boarding Celebrity and stuff. So it'll be the week after, and then I'll get back on the Saturday, but we'll do on the Saturday, and we'll definitely focus on Celebrity and other questions. So thanks so much for joining me. Have a great time, and hopefully I've answered your questions. Watch out for those Virgin videos, which will hopefully come out in the next week or 2. So thanks very much. Take care, and cheers and goodbye for now.